Neurolinguistic programming expert Dr. Will Horton joins me for a conversation today on NLP for addiction recovery, personal development, and business success. Dr. Will brings 35 years of experience and constant research to the space of treating addictions and understanding brain science to help others heal at layers beneath the conscious mind. In our conversation, we dive into the use of NLP in overcoming addictions, cultivating better relationships, fostering self-awareness, and building successful businesses. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Will.
Glad to be here. It's always fun to speak about this stuff.
Yes, it's all good. So I'm really big into mind-body medicine and just kind of conveying to people who are on, a more holistic health journey, how the mind and body play together to create both mental and physical wellness. And I know you have a lot of experience in this realm, so I'm very excited to talk to you today. So you're an expert in something called Neurolinguistic Programming, or NLP for short. Can you kind of describe to us what exactly that means?
Well, it's basically how your brain works, not why. I'm also a clinical psychologist trained in cognitive behavioral therapy and a little bit of analytics, and they talk about the why of everything. And I believe sometimes the why is not important. It's the what are you doing and how are you doing it, right? And my evidence for that is sometimes, people could be in therapy for years and get great insight, but they don't change. Insight does not cause change, right? You're insightful, And in my first clinical specialty, which is addictions, I see people literally drink themselves to death or drug themselves to death, knowing they're an addict.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution's simple: stop. But they can't. Right. And here's a good example. I always give examples because this sounds weird about how's your brain work. Is if you think about somebody you really like, a buddy, a pal, a friend, not a lover, spouse, just somebody you really like. If you close your eyes real quick and just think about that person, right? They'll take some kind of spatial arrangement. Maybe they're right in front, maybe they're to the left. You just like this person. Great. Now what I'd like you to do is think about somebody you dislike. They're a whiner. You just don't like them. No ill will. It's just, I don't like this person, right? And now let this person pop into your mind, and it'll be in a different spot in your mind. Right? Now, it's kind of fun if you try in vain to grab that person you dislike and move them to the spot of the person you like and see what your brain says. Yeah. Right? Most people's brain go, no, they don't deserve it, or they'll move and it'll bounce back. And so, it's like how your brain's doing stuff in there at the subconscious level. I think it's not really studied in the clinical psych or psychology or psychiatry because it's very, I don't want to say random, but it's very customized to the person. Okay. Right. And, psychology is trying to follow medicine, where it's like, medicine fits. If you're 5'9" and you weigh 160 pounds, if I give you 100 milligrams of this, certain things are going to happen within a tight parameter. Great. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, you make a picture, I make a sound, other people want to smell or taste something. It's very variable. So it's more of it, and it's as much of an art as it is a science.
Sure. And there's some kind of crossover, or at least similarities, between NLP and hypnosis too. So what's the difference between the two?
Well, I like to say hypnosis is one thing, and NLP is like high-tech hypnosis, or basically waking hypnosis. You can get, and I clash with a lot of my hypnotist friends, there's no such thing as depth of trance. None. Nada, zilch. Whatever people say, well, you need to be in like a certain level of trance to get pain control. Mm-hmm. Really? There was a football game a couple weeks ago where one of the guys completed the game on a broken foot. A broken foot.
Oh my gosh.
How was he playing the game? He blocked the pain. Women do it all the time. As soon as if they go into labor, as soon as the baby's born, they don't remember the physical pain, right? It's a different thing. And you do that with like hallucinations. In hypnosis, they say there's a positive hallucination where you see something that's not there, and there's a negative hallucination where there's something there and you don't see it. Well, you need to be in deep trance. Bullshit. If you've ever lost your keys and you can't find them, and you yell at your spouse or somebody and they, where is it? Where is it? And they go, they're right there. They're right there. You were looking at them. You did not see them. You were you were negatively hallucinating. So whatever you need, people think you need fancy trance for, you can do wide awake. And so they're kind of two sides of the same coin. I will bust myself and say, when I first got into this, the hypnotists did not like the NLPers, and the NLPers did not like the hypnotists. It was this is like in the early 80s. It was like, and now it's like they've kind of, now, as you well know, you go to a conference or it's kind of commingled. Right. But it took a long time. It took a long time. And it's pretty much that way, except in the hypnosis subgroup of regression therapists. Which I laugh at regression therapy, because if you really understand how memory works, regression makes no sense.
Okay. All right. So with both of those, are we trying to tap into the subconscious mind then, correct?
Yeah, I like the other than conscious mind, subconscious, pre-conscious, and again, there's no differentiating line. It's not like, the thermal plane if you ever swim and you go beneath the thermal plane in a lake or the ocean, it's a big drop. No, it kind of slides, right? And they're constantly commingling. And like when you said about mind body, we just had a wonderful example of this with the COVID stuff. And I don't care what you believe either way,
right?
But clinical medicine acted like all we got to do is fix the body, lock down everything. Why are the old people dying in the nursing homes? They were keeping them safe or keeping them that, but they're dropping like flies. Why? They were acting like just keep the body alive. And it's like the clinical medicine still has a tendency to think it's two different things.
Right.
But they're integrated,
Yeah. And I've seen the statistics that it takes 20 years for new medical breakthroughs to really become part of the mainstream. And I kind of feel like, particularly in the mind body realm, we're at the beginning of that, where more people in conventional medicine are kind of gradually making their way back. And none of this is new. We're basically talking about taking ancient technology, but applying, modern science to it so we understand it better.
And there, I just was talking to somebody, and I don't know, our diets came up because I'm getting ready for a film. My other thing is I act, and they're like, wow, you look like you lost weight, you're muscling up. What are you doing? I said, well, this, and this. And I said, well, and I eat like 4 to 5 eggs at least every day, or if not every other day. And they're like, that will kill you. And I'm like, what? Where does this come from?
Exactly.
Well, I know that's been disproven over 20 years ago. And yet the myth continues.
And we could probably go on a longer rant about, the commercial campaigns from the 80s and 90s that programmed people to think that fat was dangerous and eggs were bad for you, and how that goes into your subconscious mind.
My favorite is, took a skillet. This is your brain. And it shows an egg busted. This is your brain on drugs. And it shows an egg frying. And I go, that commercial worked for me. They go, oh, did you quit using drugs? No, I quit eating eggs.
Right, didn't have quite the right effect to it. So, oh gosh. So in terms of neurolinguistic programming specifically, what are the tools that make it effective?
Well, it uses the best of the hypnosis world and somewhat of like cognitive behavioral therapy, and puts them together without challenging what's going on in someone's mind, right? It's like, it doesn't put up the same defense mechanisms if you're doing insight therapy or sometimes even hypnosis. You're just telling people, move pictures in your mind, see what happens, do this, change some sounds, and figure out what really motivates you, not what you think would motivate you, what really motivates you. And once you get into that stuff, that's why NLP seems to be so effective for most things.
Okay. Okay. And so there is a lot of visualization involved in the process.
Well, yeah, you could, yeah, visualization, but it could be, and again, people think, oh, I can't visualize. Excuse me, that's because they confuse a visualization with a Steven Spielberg movie,
Uh-huh.
right? And no, it
Right.
may not be Avatar in there. It's just you get
Right.
an
Right.
image. It's kind of the big thing, and I like it from the clinical psychology world, is the current buzzword is felt sense.
Hmm.
It's a felt sense. It may be a picture, maybe a sound, but it's kind of, you just kind of feel it. There's a sense of it, right? And so that I give clinical psych very good credit. I go, this makes sense.
Okay. All right. So we are utilizing the senses of the body in order to tap into the mind body
Yes.
connection kind of thing. Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So now you mentioned earlier that you have a background in helping to treat addictions. How can NLP help with that?
Well, and again, it gets to how do you keep doing the same things over and over again? What
Mhm.
got me hooked in this is, quick story is, I first was exposed to hypnosis in high school. There was a book, it's still in print, called Hypnosis for Change by, I think the name is Hadley, right? And it's a great little book. It's a good little book, by the way, but it talks a little bit about hypnosis. Then it gives a script, like a relaxation script, and a couple other things. And so I read it in high school, and I hypnotized a couple people, right? As a
Uh-huh.
junior in high school, scared the shit out of me, scared the crap out of me, because it worked, right?
Right.
But I wasn't, the only thing I cared about in high school was drinking beer, playing football, and running around, to be honest with you. It's why I went in the Army after high school. And
Okay.
But I did start making self-hypnosis tapes. I can't even say cassettes, because this goes back a long time,
Even
right?
further.
Yeah, so I was listening to it. So it was always in my mind. Then I did have an addiction, runs in my family, my mom's side of the family, and I believe addictions is genetic, part of it.
Mhm.
And it cost me the military career, where I was going to become a pilot and go to West Point, a couple other things. And then when I got out of the Army, I just decided to be an actor, something else
Mhm.
I always wanted to do. And I started doing that, was doing pretty well. And an addiction kind of sidetracked that. So once I started to seek help, went through treatment, traditional treatment, therapy, 12 steps, and all this. And I always liked it, but I couldn't quit drinking. And then I was exposed to some of these NLP or hypnosis techniques, and everything made sense. It's just like suddenly it was like, oh, this is what the 12-step program means and how it should work. This is what they're trying to do in therapy. And so then my life started to change. I became a volunteer, became an alcohol and drug counselor. And because I still had government money from the VA after my 3 years in the Army, I went back to school and got my degree in master's in psych and my doctorate. And I've been following it ever since, right? And
Okay.
so, but with addictions, it's the same thing. I was always fascinated with, why would, like, people come in, and now I sound like psychologist. If you get the same demographic, same age, same socioeconomic background, things like that, and you got like 5 people, let's say 5 men between 35 and 40, pretty much the same background,
Yeah.
uh, and they go into whether it's treatment or the 12 step, and 3 of them make it, 2 of them don't make it. And you go back, they're doing the same thing. They're going to their AA meetings, or they're going to their therapy. Why do some people make it and other people don't? And it's like there's no rhyme or reason, right? And it's like, so what's going on different in the people that gets it
Yep.
versus those that don't? And this translates into weight loss or personal development or
Right.
anything. Why do some do and some not? So that, and what it seems to do is help speed up making that transition in your head, where you can, take it from thinking about it into acting upon it.
Okay. All right. All right. You also have a background in martial arts, a black belt in karate, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So how does that tie in with sort of the art of exploring mind body healing modalities?
Well, it's kind of cool. I again, like a lot, I took karate in high school, and then of course in the military there were some self-defense and some other stuff. But then as an adult, I actually got back into it heavy because my daughter was little and wanted to take karate, so I started taking it, right? And basically only stopped a couple of years ago when I tore my Achilles tendon. And the Eastern philosophy of, you know, um, I think it's called Zanshen, thought, no thought.
Mhm.
That's the ultimate thing of martial arts. It's like you're not thinking, you're just there, right?
Mhm.
And when you watch somebody that can really do it, a Bruce Lee, and all you got to do is YouTube it. There's a bunch, and it's like the movements seem effortless, and it's
Mhm.
not. It's not camera tricks when you watch this stuff work in action. It's like, it's like these people, you learn how to calm your mind,
Mhm.
right? And again, it's, the true art of Shotokan karate, my first or my second, Reiku Kimpo, would talk about, it's not about beating others, it's about beating yourself. It's
Yep.
about taking mastery of yourself, right?
Right.
And you really run into these martial artists, been doing it their whole life, and they're deadly, and they'll never use it. They'll just walk away, right? Because true
Right.
mercy is knowing I could kill you, but it's like, I'm just going to get in my car and drive away. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah. And I've used the NLP and the hypnosis techniques um, in the martial arts world to keep me focused. And again, same thing. Why do some people, here's an interesting aside. Why is it? I see this over and over again, and I'll tie it into another thing. But like, I see people take karate 3, 4, 5 years, they're really into it, and they can't wait. They get their black belt, they pass the test, and in the style I was in, usually that means their knuckles are bloody, and they're
Uh-huh.
into it, right? They probably got a black eye or something, and they get their black belt, and then they quit. And it's like,
Right.
what happened? Well,
Right.
same thing. You see how many people are like 3 credits shy of getting their bachelor's degree or their master's degree or their doctorate. They're
Mhm.
this close. I was just talking to somebody, all they got to do is go defend their dissertation.
Right.
They'll get their doctorate. And it's like, what's stopping you? Well,
Right.
I'm like, actually, most of the people sitting on those dissertation committees want you to succeed.
Mhm.
They don't want to mess you up, right? But anyway, so again, it's that what motivates people versus that. And again, that one, I think what begins to happen is the idea of, once I put that black belt on, I'm supposed to be different. And then you're really not,
Yeah.
right? Or
Right.
like, once I got my doctorate in psychology, and then I actually passed the boards and all the tests I had to take to get my doctor. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, right?
Right.
And
Right.
somehow you think it should be different,
Right. And
you
it's
know?
kind of the difference between going through the motions of something versus doing the actual inner engineering of what
Yeah.
it takes to make that transformation.
And as our dear friend Tony Robbins would say, do you have a goal after your goal?
Mhm.
You get your black belt, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep studying, or was that your goal? You got it, you're
Yeah.
done, right?
Right.
I've seen people do it when they sabotage your business. My goal is to build a business. They build a business. I've done this, by the way. And then it's like, but I didn't, what was your goal after you built your business, right? And
Mhm.
of course, in the business world, they'd say, well, you build your business to sell it,
Yeah.
right? That's your goal. Well, no, I built it, and then it just like, it wasn't what I thought it would be. It's that never ending thing that people get into. So,
Right. Right. Nice. All right. Well, we're going to kind of dive into using NLP for the art of persuasion. So tell me a little bit more. I know you've got a program coming up with this. Um, how can we use neurolinguistic programming to help persuade people to do what we want them to do?
yeah. Well, I always say, people say, what is this really? I say, well, it's the art and science of getting other people to do what you want and have them think it was their idea.
Right.
And they go, that's manipulation. Everything's manipulation time. But still, everything is communication and persuasion. If you're a parent, if you're in business, if you're a therapist, you're always doing that, right? But what I've really started to beat people up on, and it took me a while to really begin to do this, is it starts with self-persuasion. Self-influence. Can you influence yourself to make the changes that you want, right? And we see that a lot in the therapeutic community. I won't just pick on hypnotists here, but I'll pick on the whole therapeutic community. You'll go to a conference, whether it's hypnosis conference, NLP conference, or a psych conference, and you walk around going, these are the people I'm supposed to take advice from, right? Because they can't, and then they can't influence themselves. So you have to, all influence starts with self-influence. Kind of like in the hypnosis world, they say all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, right? And it's true. All persuasion starts with yourself. Can you motivate yourself to do the things you don't want to do, whether it's exercise, diet, business, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So you have to begin to figure out what motivates you. Because if you don't, even if you go take the fanciest classes out there in persuasion and influence and, any of them, up to the Tony Robbins mastery seminars, right?
Right.
If you can't influence yourself, you're going to be an ineffective influencer or persuader to other people.
Right.
And I think it also starts if deep inside, it's like, why can't I stop smoking, lose weight, do my exercise? Even though you learn these tricks and maybe you can help other people, it starts the idea of you feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
The
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. It's like, and that's why you see people like self-destruct. They don't have that thing. So all persuasion. So, what motivates you to do certain things? Is it a picture in your head if you're working toward a goal? Is it a sound? Is it a feeling? Right? What really motivates you? Not what you could go on. I just say Google it, right? Go on YouTube. But what motivates you may bore me to tears.
Right.
Oh, listen to this music. It's going to motivate you. No, this music's going to get me to want to rip the radio out of the car. It's not going to motivate me, right? Whatever it is. So, but maybe a picture will motivate you. Maybe it's it's a feeling, right? And so that, first you have to pick some things. If you're going to really master this, is what some areas in my life I need to persuade myself. Right. And then it kind of opens up, oh, this is what works. This is what doesn't work for me. It may not work for other people, but then it becomes more fun to figure out what will motivate you to do whatever it is.
Right. Definitely. So once we've mastered self-motivation, if we can get that far, are we talking about using NLP to persuade people? Almost as a form of creating better communication.
It's to get people on the same wavelength, to help influence them to do the things that you think they should do. There's no other way for it. And then it gets too philosophical. Well, do you really? I don't know. If you're coming to me and wanting me to give you 4 sessions to do something, you're paying me to influence you. That's the end of the story, right? That's what you're doing, right? It's why you go to the doctor. It's why, but can you do that? And I remember a couple of years ago, I did a seminar at a doctor's office. It was about communication. And it was really about getting people to complete the regimen that they, like the drugs, that if they're going to give you a round of antibiotics, I think the research says most people never take the full 10 days. Epidemic is people would get on a regimen, start getting better, and go, I feel better, I'm going to quit taking this. Right. And then you get the rebound effect.
Yeah.
Right. And so they wanted to know what can motivate people to complete whatever it is the doctor is recommending.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, first of all, and most of them would use logic. And I say, logic sucks. Logic doesn't take action.
Right.
what
Right.
really motivates you, right?
Yeah.
And so then they started playing with it, and we did a little training, and then came back in a couple of weeks. I said, "What'd you guys find?" One of the nurses or physician, whatever she was, worked with the doctor, goes, "Well, if I knew that the person had kids, relatively young kids, I just look them in the eye and go, well, you might want to complete taking all of these, or your kids might be raised by someone else."
Yeah, that might be motivating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean? Well, this shit could kill you, as we, and whatever it was, whether it's COVID or whatever it is, you need to do this, right?
Yeah.
Or getting people to follow up on the tests. I need you to go schedule a test. And they go, well, I told you this before, you're not doing it. Well, I just, hope if it's a woman, I hope your husband picks a good stepmom.
Right.
Or if it's a guy, I hope your wife marries a guy that can help raise your kids.
Right. Right. Right.
And it sounds kind of brutal, but it got people to take the action.
Right.
Because they were using logic, the facts and the figures and this and that, right? And all you have to do to believe this, or if you don't believe me, is just when you're watching television, because America and I think New Zealand's the only countries on the face of the earth that allows pharmaceutical advertisements.
Right.
It's like, it scares the crap out of you when you're watching this, right? And then it goes through, and then now you'll be happy and dancing and right? And it's like, they're accessing different parts of your mind, fear, and then I'll be happy now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And then the way they bury the side effects, runny stools, heart attacks, death.
Right. The stuff they have to disclaim. Yeah. Wow. In terms of the art of persuasion, do we, you just mentioned the pharmaceutical companies, are government agencies and intelligence services using NLP potentially for not good purposes?
Yeah. Why wouldn't that? Yeah. Well, and you saw it during the epidemic, whatever it was, pandemic.
So in terms of using NLP and persuasion, how do we use that to create better relationships with people?
Well, one is, again, I'll default to get in a good relationship with yourself,
right?
Do some motivation, get you to take some action. And then if I know how you think, if I know you make pictures, right?
Yeah.
And then I need to use visual terms. Mm-hmm. I need to say, this is what we'll see. This is what it'll look like. When you follow this, this is what will be on the horizon. And you'll understand that. As opposed to, if you were a feeling person, if I'm talking about this is what you'll see, your brain is done. It's not even tracking that information. But if you flip your communication to, look, Jen, this is what you'll feel. And this is how good you'll feel when you realize the people around you are feeling this way.
Right.
And then, all you have to do is do this and the feelings will come. So you have to figure out what really motivates people. Is it what they see, what they hear, what they feel? Those are the primary three. It's a very simplistic term. And again, like a lot of things, people go, yeah, I know that. Well, I've been talking to you for 20 minutes. You're not doing it.
Right.
There's a reason, to tie back to martial arts, right? There's a reason. When you go to I used to go to these seminars in Reading, Pennsylvania, and everybody there was black belt. Most of them were school owners, right? Or fighters. And yet every day, the Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, the first hour was all basics. How to do a front kick, how to do a back fist, it's like some of these people have been doing this since they were this tall.
Yeah.
Well, why are you working on the front kick? Same with professional sports. There's a reason why Tom Brady or these elite when the season's over, they go back and practice throwing a football. For God's sakes, they're the best that's ever done it.
Right.
You think they're like, no, it's the little thing. It's the little things you forget to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's true for, in communications, because you're going to default to how you communicate. Right. And I can bust myself. I will always bust myself. My wife is much more visual. I'm much more kinesthetic. And she's always yelling at me, no, show me what you're talking about.
Right.
I need to see it. I don't want to hear it. And and so and it's like, okay, note to self, so you got to practice this stuff,
Right. Right. Is that part of it too, is like learning how the other person perceives things, whether they're visual or auditory or kinesthetic or whatever?
Oh yeah. And it's a conscious effort, right? And you have to
Right.
practice it. And the other analogy I beat up, if you're ever getting on a plane and you're going to fly somewhere, if they haven't locked the door yet, if you glance in the cockpit, what are the pilots doing? Right?
Right. Right.
The pilots are going down a checklist. They have 10,000 hours in the air in that plane. Why are they going down a checklist? Because it's the shit you forget that will kill you.
Right.
Right. It's like, and they double check each other and they don't get offended by it.
Right.
Suddenly hypnotists and therapists are like, oh, they get offended if you point out something that they're not doing. It's like, well, I'd rather my pilot or co-pilot point out I forgot to, put the landing gear down before we're coming in for a landing. It's like, but we all do that. I'm guilty of it. Everybody is, right?
Right.
And my wife's heard me say hundreds of times, I'm always really, if you're going to hire me as your personal coach, it's always good right before I teach a class or right after I teach a class. Because then I'm in like that mode of like running the checklists in my head and that, because it's easy to get lazy.
Right. Right. Definitely. Why does our frame of mind matter so much for health and living happy and connected lives with others?
Well, it all goes back to the part of your brain called your reticular activating system, right? And that's part of your brain that is constantly looking for something that will kill you. That's its first job. Then it looks for food, right? And then it looks for a mate.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. And people act like when I teach that there's higher things. No, at the sub level, if you're not protected from a predator, if you're not eating and you're not procreating, your gene pool's dead.
Yeah.
Right. So this is just running. Right now, we don't have the threats that we used to have: lions, tigers, bears, warring tribes like we used to. So your brain has co-opted that to do other things. And so, it'll find what you tell is important. I always beat up the idea, because I'm a guy, if you ever want a new car and you don't know what kind of car you want yet, and then you decide, I'm going to buy this, right? Few months, well, it's been about a year now. I bought a Jeep. What the hell did I buy? It's called the Jeep Renegade. It's a blue-green thing. They call it bikini blue. And I think I bought it because I tell people, see, I look good in a bikini. But I like the car. Suddenly I just said, I think I want that car. Then I saw that car everywhere. The day before, I wouldn't have noticed it. But the minute I told my brain, this is important, find it for me.
Right.
Then my brain goes and does it. Same with like whatever kind of person you find attractive, whether you're on the market or not, it's irrelevant. That's the person you will notice in a room. Right. It's just the way your brain works. The kind of food you like, your brain will find it. Right. Great. Now, if you want a better lifestyle, better healthy thing, you need to train that part of your brain to look for reasons to stay healthy.
Right.
To look for reasons to exercise, not exercise. Right. And, and it could be as ludicrous as, I remember when I was running my clinic and people go, well, I know I'm going to gain some weight. I'm going on a cruise. And everybody knows you can't exercise on a cruise. Excuse me?
Right.
They have gyms on these goddamn ships, right?
Right.
And it's like, they're looking for reasons not to.
Right.
And so, so you got to train your brain to look for what my birds, my cats, everybody's barking. But you got to train your brain to find things like in health, vitality. And I would always say you need to surround yourself with a group of people that think the same way.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And because that tribe mentality, they've known for years, if I know the 5 people you hang out with and I find out their net worth, you're within a parameter of those 5 people, right? And again, if you did the true statistic and you throw out, if there's one rich guy and one poor guy and take the middle, you're you're probably in there. So if you want to be rich, hang out with rich people. If you want to be in shape, hang out with in shape people.
Right.
People that are finding a way to go to the gym.
Right.
And again, that's what the whole addiction world's about. People that don't like the 12-step program. I go, yeah, heaven forbid you hang out with a tribe.
Right.
The people that are like-minded. Excuse me, aren't you going to mass? You know, they go, yeah. I go, well, there's a mosque right there. You could go to the Muslim thing. No, we all want our tribe. So hang out with people like that. So if you want health, vitality, you need to find the people that think that way.
Who share the same values. Yeah. So can NLP, it kind of sounds like, be a good tool for just even creating self-awareness? I think so many people are living very unconscious lives and not even paying attention to their behaviors and their motivations. Is this a tool to help them become more aware of that?
Oh yeah, it speeds up. The whole big thing now, they're acting like it's new, this mindfulness thing, right? Where be aware of what you're doing, right? Whether it's driving your car or eating your meal, if you're aware of it, it makes it more conscious.
Right.
But your brain's built to do things subconsciously. It wants to make things habits where you don't have to think about it, right?
Right.
I had this truck, and the gear shift was one of these. It was right here on the dash. You click, click, and okay, fine. I got used to it, right? And then I remember I drove that truck for a while, especially during the pandemic when I wasn't going a lot of places. Then I went somewhere and rented a car, and I'm sitting in the car, and I couldn't get the car to move. And I kept turning up the radio or turning up the heater or the air conditioner because I'm trying to find that knob. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It was the old fashioned one, had the shifter down here. Right. I was in subconscious mode. Right. And then I was getting angry, which makes it worse. Right. And what do the hypnotists call it? The law of reverse effect. The harder you try, the harder it becomes. So I had to take a deep breath, become aware, like, wait a minute. I'm not in my Ram 1500 Rebel with the big wheels. I'm in this little rental car. Right. Oh yeah, there's the shifter. Put it in drive, and I'm just driving along. Right. Yeah. I was one step away from going in there and embarrassing myself. The car won't move. Right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You talk about these 7 power words. Are you allowed to tell us what they are, or is that like a top secret?
No, I'll give a few. Well, okay. A lot of them are based in emotions. Okay. And they're not really power words, but like first would be the like visual, auditory, kinesthetic. If I need to know which is more impactful for you, so you could place it, like we said, in a visual frame and an auditory frame or a kinesthetic. That's going to motivate it. And then the next power words are usually emotionally based, right? Fear. Fear is a big one. We act like it's not. One of the most powerful words you can use is regret. Right? Especially if you're talking, I would say older adult, no, anybody, because it's the things you don't do you regret the most. Right. Whether it's like, and I just saw the power of this. Was talking to somebody, and they were young, just getting out of high school. They said, you know what I regret? I'm like, what the hell? You're 18. What the hell you got to regret yet? And you're not in rehab or jail. So, they go like, I really should have tried out for the football team. Because now I'm looking back on, they were getting ready to graduate, and they're like, could I have made it? Right. And they'll never know. So they have that regret. Right. And it's the things you don't do you regret the most. Now you think about the power of that if you're going to motivate somebody. Hey, I've got this class coming up, right, on secrets of subconscious communication, secret psychology of persuasion, right? And I don't want you to regret that you don't learn this info now. Right. Because have you ever like skipped something, then learn it later, and your biggest thing is I should have learned this when I was younger. Yeah. Right. Now that's like a hypnotic phrase because you're tapping into something that's what they would call a universal experience, the feeling of regret, and tagging it to what I want you to do. Take the class now. Right. And it's much more likely to get someone. And then again, if I know you're visual, you know, I don't want you to look into the future and realize that you see today is the day you didn't do that activity that would have changed your life.
Right. Right.
You know, and so then it like motivates people. So it's the visual, auditory, kinesthetic power words that tap into emotions.
Yeah.
You know, fear, love, jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you tired of being the only fat person in your group? And yeah, and my wife was always like, "Why do you talk like that?" Because it works.
Right.
That's
Right.
why I talk like that. You know.
Right.
You know, vanity. If I could tap into your vanity, people talk about health. Health is a horrible reason to change, by the way.
I say that all the time. I think, we come up with all these, different ailments that are causing people to have cancer and heart disease and diabetes and what have you. But I think if people understood like the origins of, why they can't lose weight, or, why their sex drive is tanked, or why they're aging prematurely, like that seems to be much more motivating for people than like, oh, I might get cancer in 10 years because of my lifestyle habits.
Any doctor will tell you everybody's motivated. My friend Dr. Dave will say this: when they're strapped to a gurney with an IV dripping in their arm and a heart monitor on, they're going to change your life, brother. They're going to stop smoking, quit eating crap, and start exercise. 2 weeks later, they're chain smoking cigarettes as they're eating a Burger King thing. And, it's just but vanity will motivate people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Hey, do you want to make all your friends jealous? Let me show you how to lose weight now.
Right.
So you'll be the hot mom or the hot dad,
right.
Right. And I just did that. Somebody, we were talking, I'm like, man, maybe you're you're not. Well, they were talking to me and they go, yeah, you stay in shape. I go, that's because I'm vain. I will admit it. I do not want a dad bod. I don't like dad bod. And if you fall into this crap thinking women think that's attractive,
right.
There's a reason why, like all the guys I know it's bullshit, but all the guys in the world's sexiest men list, there's no dad bods in that list, ladies and gentlemen.
I think Chris Evans made it this year. He's
and always in the top 10. There's like Chris Evans, the guy that plays Thor, The Rock. I mean, you go down that list, it's like there's no dad bods in that.
No, and I mean back to like understanding how our brains work. There's a reason that we are pre-programmed to find healthy bodies attractive. And I'm not trying to be like mean or dismissive of people who maybe don't fall into certain categories of physique, but we're pre-wired to want to pass our genes on and, share genetic information with somebody who would be healthy, and that usually means attractive too, and fit and so forth.
It's like there's a mathematical formula. It's hip for men, the shoulder hip ratio. It's a slight V. It's not like The Rock or like that. That's a little bit much, but subconsciously you're like, this person will be a good hunter or a protector, Right. And the same with men. No straight guy I know finds most of the supermodels attractive.
Yeah.
They're like, no. And then when you see the actresses like Scarlett Johansson, it's like they got a shape. Mm-hmm. They like, it's like, yeah, that would be. And like you say, this is not politically woke, I guess we could say,
Sure.
It's like, yeah, that looks like someone that could carry the genes on.
Right. And I think we've, in the realms of popular culture, we've, and I'll just say I really do enjoy myself a good hunter, but in the realms of popular culture, we've kind of gone from one extreme to another, and I'm a big follower of Eastern philosophy and like Taoism and so forth, which really is just about gravitating to balance, where we went from, that early 90s twiggy mod, like overly thin woman who's probably not even menstruating anymore. She's so thin, to now like the glorification of obesity, rather than just seeking a a balanced, healthy body, which is really what I think is most attractive about either sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, this operates at the subconscious level. It's genetic. It is in your DNA. We forget, we act like a lot of stuff's not genetically just like the food industry, if you want to get into that cool stuff.
Yeah, right.
They know how to tap into the genetic predisposition to want salt, sugar, fat.
Yep.
Salt, sugar, fat.
Yep.
Right. And they'll just load you up on it. And that why is everybody obese?
Mm-hmm.
Go back and read salt, sugar, fat. Look at the studies that were, and are they doing this on purpose? Yes. It's called.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I don't think most people realize in the realm of food engineering, they put sugar into things that aren't even sweet, where you don't even perceive it, just to tap into your addiction and at a brain level. So you want it more. So we create that addiction. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you go back 300 years, you wanted high fat, high caloric food,
and healthy fats
and
versus the stuff
salt,
we're getting.
Because salt, you needed that to stay alive.
Right.
Yeah. And, because they said, like, what is it like on some of the slave ships coming over? They lost, like, what was it? A third of the slaves on the trips, right? They would die. They'd throw them overboard. Because they weren't giving them the salt they needed. They were literally dehydrating and dying,
Right.
And like, wow, this stuff is in us.
Yeah. It's programmed,
but it's not woke to talk about it.
Right. No. Yeah, but I think there's so much to be said about just understanding our biology and physiology, and where we can tap into this mind body stuff to understand it at a conscious awareness level. So we can lead more happy, healthy, connected, vibrant, vital lives. But that requires a certain level of self-awareness that I think so many people in popular modern culture have just gone on autopilot and don't question how it's been suggested we live, which is part of why I think NLP is a really good tool. And I'll just kind of share. So I took your beginner class, and beginner certification class. So you both practice and help people, doing therapeutic sessions, but you also teach and certify others who want to learn to do what you do. And specifically, since we're on the subject of food, one of our exercises, what was myself and my partner had to pick something, some kind of food that we didn't feel like was a good habit, and then walk each other through the NLP process of sort of deprogramming our mind from craving that food all the time. And I picked chocolate, although I think I was like too specific in the visualization that we went through for this, because I picked a very specific brand of chocolate and style. And I have never, this was several years ago, I've never touched it again. I still eat chocolate, but just
not that brand.
Not that brand. Yeah. So it did work. But immediately too, like I had been eating it a lot, and I never touched it again.
Oh yeah. I do that at those things. And I tell people, like, I like to teach that right before lunch, especially somebody, I'm going to give up fries. I say, try to eat a fry. And they come back, I couldn't eat it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's how your brain, now you could flip your brain back. It's
sure.
Still your brain.
Right.
It's like, this is how, it's like the old, I always look for natural phenomenon. They always say, if you want to give up a food, work where they make it. You will never eat it again.
Right.
When I went in the Army, I was the only guy in the Army for 2 years that wouldn't eat pizza.
Yeah.
Right? Because I worked in a pizza place.
Yeah.
We'd pick them up off the floor as long as they didn't fall flat down. It's like, it was not, statute of limitations long over. But it's like, it's like, so yeah, that's an over thing. But you could, so yeah, these NLP techniques, and again, they're not logical. When you went through that food one, I wasn't talking about, it's bad for you or this, that. No, it's just like, where's one, where's this, move it around, do this, you're done. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Cool.
Absolutely. Well, this has all been great. Is there anything that we have not touched on, either in NLP or anything else having to do with mind body healing and, just, maybe you could touch on a little bit the use of NLP in business practices, because I think we focused more on personal development and self-improvement. But this is also an excellent tool for business, correct?
Oh yeah. Well, it's all communication, putting
Right.
your ad in the, I just, you know, I forgot, I just saw this and I'm gonna use this, right? Which is, let's say you're in business and you've
Yeah.
got, a big thing in business. What's your ideal client, right? What's your demographic for your, females between 25 and 50 that want to lose weight? That,
Right.
if that's your demographic, great. Don't let you're not that don't let people that's not in your demographic influence how you market.
Uh-huh.
Don't let a guy say, well, that's not right. No,
Hmm.
right? It's like you get distracted, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like you got to break it down. So in business, um, and again, it's all about communication. You need to learn influence and persuasion if you're going to get people to buy your products or sign up for your services or this, that, and the other thing, right? And usually, this whole myth about, well, if you build a better mousetrap, they'll beat a path to your door. No, they won't.
Yeah.
They got to find you, right? And then they got to want it. And again, it's like, so the best communicator will have a better business than, let's say, therapy. You could be the world's best therapist, but if you're not good at reaching out and connecting with people and selling your products, and there's a mediocre therapist that really good at that, this person over here will outperform this person 50 to 1.
Right. Right.
Because again, they don't, it's like, can you communicate your message,
Exactly.
at the level that the people that want it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, this has been great. Is there anything else that I have not asked you that you think would be important for our listeners to know about?
And since a lot of this is, you're in the mind body world,
Yeah.
is
Yep.
always remember that underneath it, we're responsible for our health,
Yes.
not the government, not your doctor,
Yep.
not the medical system,
Mhm.
right? You're responsible. So, and it starts with how you think about what you're doing, and again, it's that taking charge of it.
Right.
And just, uh, not letting I always say, not letting the bastards get you down. It's like, I'm responsible for my health,
Yes.
and take charge of that and become your own doctor,
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
really good doctor never bothered, shouldn't be upset if you challenge them,
No, and I will say, I think sometimes maybe people think I'm a little too critical of doctors, but my favorite people in the whole world are doctors who have tremendous curiosity and are open to receiving new information. And certainly the way our healthcare system or sick care system has been structured, doesn't allow them to explore that curiosity very much. So I think sometimes it's more inquisitive patients who come in who challenge them in that way that keeps them sharper. So I think the really good ones understand that, and appreciate that, certainly to a certain level. And you had mentioned earlier, you kind of touched on, kind of this adolescent state that we all went through with the COVID situation. And I'll kind of get into a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy stuff. I remember talking to a therapist who talked about ego states, and there being a parent ego state, a child ego state, an adult ego state. And, as adults, we want to have other adult relationships with adults. And I think so much of what our medical system and even the government and to some extent educational institutions and business as well, have created this parent-child relationship that is not working for anybody who wants to be an adult. So I think, in the realm of ownership and being proactive, being the architect of your own health, having an adult relationship with yourself and insisting on that being the case with other people rather than allowing yourself to be parented by the government or the medical system, is imperative, and NLP can probably be a tool for that as well.
Oh yeah, I'm in the VA system, so that's its own world, the Veterans
Okay.
Administration. And my primary care, it took us a while, right?
Yeah.
And because she wanted me to take something, I said, I'm not taking that,
Yeah.
right? And she's
Yeah.
like I'm like, and I had my phone. I'm just, wait a second. There's the research that says that A, it's ineffective, and B, it does liver damage.
Right.
And then also when you said, well, my cholesterol's high at 219, what's your parameter? Where did they get the number that a certain thing is bad?
And I don't think
yeah, and I said
most people don't know they changed the parameters when they came out with statins so that they could require more people to go on statins.
Yeah, and I said, the original thing was, when they take the control group, it's every man between the ages of 18 and 70 or 75 or 85. I'm like,
yeah,
what? Show me and Europe did it. The parameters of men that are athletes between 25 and 40. And guess what? Their cholesterol is between 200 and 250. It's just, and she's like, finally, she's like,
yeah.
So, but it's like, I'm good. We did have a nice little conversation. I said, I expect to be treated with respect.
Exactly.
And she goes, oh yeah, yeah. And the VA's changed in the last year. Oh yeah, yeah, fine. You did your part, let us help you. I'm like, well,
right.
So,
right.
And again, I said, it's my body. Don't even prescribe it because I'm not going to fill this thing.
Right.
Even though you paid for it, the government paid for it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's so much about creating healthy relationships, and whatever we can do to foster that adult interaction. So, yeah.
Cool.
Well, awesome. This has been a great conversation. I think that our listeners will probably get a lot out of it. You're online and people can find out more about what you do on a therapeutic level, as well as if they wanted to learn how to become certified in NLP themselves. Where can they find you online to get more information?
The easiest is two websites. One is NFNLP, NFNLP.com. That's like for the organizations and trainings and ways to get in touch with me. And also Dr. Will Horton, DrWillHorton.com. Usually one of those two. I'm rebranding the one site, the Dr. Will Horton site.
Okay.
But yeah. All right. So I teach this stuff.
Awesome. And you're a prolific writer too. So I think if people go over to Amazon, they can probably find quite a few of your titles there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite lately is I'm pushing, it's called Habits for Success.
Okay.
Why children of royalty and the wealthy are more successful than those that aren't. And it's the habits and the beliefs they build in.
Right.
They expect success, certain things are going to happen. And, as opposed to those of us from a blue collar background that have to kind of break through certain levels.
Right. Right. So, Interesting. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Will. And I will definitely include those links in the show notes so people can just click directly over there. But it was a pleasure talking with you as always.
Namaste. Namaste.
Yes. No problem. Have a good one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So the Body Literacy Podcast has been on hiatus for a short time here, but we have a lot of great episodes coming through the pipeline right now that I'm really excited to share with everyone. We've got Holistic Hilda coming up, who is part of the Weston Price Foundation, and she has done a lot of world travels that she's going to share with us and how that reflects on health and wellness. And we've got Brendan Murata coming on, who is going to talk about children's justice, his new book. Tony Naj is joining me. We're going to talk about laughter is medicine and medical violence. So that should be interesting. She's a really fun comedian and performance artist. And we've got Dr. Keisha Ewers, who's going to come on and talk about trauma and autoimmune disease, as well as Katie Falk, who's going to go over energy medicine practice called Jin Shin Jitsu, which should be very interesting. Dr. Kelly Blodgett is actually joining us for not one, but 2 episodes because we went so long to talk about holistic dentistry and how important that is in creating overall health. And also Dr. Will Horton, who's going to be on to talk about neurolinguistic programming. So we look forward to having you subscribe over at Spotify or Apple iTunes, as well as any other major podcasting platform. Just look for the Body Literacy Podcast with Jen Mayo. And we've got a lot of things coming up that I hope you will enjoy and join us for. So we will see you soon.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Any statements and views expressed by myself or my guests are not medical advice. The opinions of guests are their own, and the Body Literacy Podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. If you have a medical problem, please consult a qualified and competent medical professional. As always, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Body Literacy Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and sign up for updates over at jenmayo.com.